Hi everyone, Kevin from the Kintone customer success team here working at home. It's been a while, but I hope you're all doing well and staying safe and sound. In today's blog post, I'd like to take a look at Kintone's if function. Let's jump in. So an if function allows you to evaluate a certain input value in a field and return two results. If the evaluation results in one way, return one value, or true. If the evaluation does not result in this way, return another value, or false. At its most basic level in Kintone, this function is structured as what I'm showing you here. If this target field contains this specific value, return X or true, and if not, return Y or false. Now you can also write formulas with any of the following operators to add additional logic to your statements, or, and not. A practical application today is an applicant processing app in which we will determine if an applicant will be accepted or rejected to our mock program. We'll take a look at several if statements using one or more operators at a time. So our first operator, or, allows us to write formulas with the following logic. If one of the following conditions are fulfilled, return true. Now we're using this formula to determine if an applicant's written exam or essay scores are high enough to pass stage 1 of the application process. We can read this formula as if the value of the written exam is greater than or equal to 70, or the value of the essay is greater than or equal to 70, return pass. All else, or if none of this is true, return fail. In a practical sense, if the applicant is able to pass either one of these tests with a score of 70 or greater, Kintone will return a pass for stage 1. So instead of one of the criteria being fulfilled, we're using the AND operator in our next phase to require both conditions to be fulfilled in order to return a true answer. We're using this formula for stage 2, the interview stage. Now, unlike the OR formula, an applicant must have a score of 70 or greater for both conditions. If both interview scores are 70 or greater, Kintone will return pass. And if this is not satisfied, for example, if one score is less than 70, the formula will return fail, and the applicant will not be able to proceed. Now, unlike OR and, using the NOT operator allows us to write a formula to return the opposite of a standard if function. If a conditional expression does not hold the value that returns false, return true. Let's back up to the beginning and take, for example, that an applicant is required to complete all initial documentation before they can be permitted to the first stage of application. If they have, the status will contain complete, and if not, it will display as incomplete. We're using this formula to evaluate the pre-application stage. We can read this function as the following. If the applicant's document completion status is not equal to incomplete, return the value, proceed to stage 1. Now for reference, with the standard function, the logic would be set that if the status is equal to complete, return the value, proceed to stage 1. Lastly, with the if function, we can also write nested functions that exist within another function. These functions provide an additional condition that will be checked after the initial condition returns true. Simply, if condition 1 is true, the next check if condition 2 is true. For our final stage of the app, we will apply a nested function combined with multiple operators to return a final result for the applicant. The nested function exists in the middle of the formula. Furthermore, we're working with an additional field that utilizes an applicant's letter of recommendation as an input. Though it looks a little bit more complicated, we can read this formula like so. If result 1 and result 2 return pass, or if the applicant has passed stages 1 and 2, then check if the applicant's letter of recommendation field contains highly recommended or recommended. If all of these conditions are true, return accepted. If result 1 and result 2 return pass, but the recommendation field does not contain highly recommended or recommended, return rejected. And lastly, if result 1 and result 2 do not return pass, then return rejected. From the formula here, you can see that the if functions can handle even more complex expressions than just 1 or 2 statements. So let's go ahead and take a look at our app in practice in this example record. This student has applied for our program. Let's see how his application process will go. So for the initial pre-application stage, recall that we're using the not operator here. So if the value in the status field is not incomplete, Kintone will allow the applicant to proceed. His paperwork value is returning as complete, so we'll allow him to move forward. So for stage 1, remember that if one of the conditions are fulfilled, or if one of the scores returns 70 or greater, the applicant will pass. Unfortunately, this applicant passed one of the exams, so he will be permitted to stage 2. So for the interview stage, we're using the AND operator so that both conditions must be fulfilled to pass. This applicant passed both interviews with scores well over 70, so he will be permitted to the final stage. Lastly, recall that we're using a nested function combined with multiple operators and inputs from the previous fields to determine if an applicant will be accepted or rejected to the program. Kintone is first going to check if result 1 and 2 are passes. Next, it will check if the letter of recommendation review is highly recommended or recommended. This field is showing highly recommended, so with all of these conditions to be true, Kintone returns this value as the final result. And I'm happy to announce that this candidate will be accepted to our program. So with this, I hope you'll try making your own if functions. As a last bit of advice, if you ever feel like your function should be working, but isn't, I would highly recommend rewriting the function from the start, remembering to incorporate each condition and the correct formatting. Thank you for watching today's blog post on the if function. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to refer to our Help Center or contact us at support@kintone.com. I'll see you in the next blog post. Take care and stay safe.